Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in the frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown and you lose it?
Where you been?
Drunk. Wendy. Darling. Light of my life.
What is your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and die.
I wish we were doing video, but then it's probably a good thing that we're not, because I would be tempted to spend more time than necessary trying to find a filter that makes it look rotoscope.
Oh, that would be sick.
Or something.
Dude, I'm sure nowadays it's just out there.
Dude, nowadays I guarantee you there are fucking Snapchat filters that do like, I remember all the hard days of trying to like track points, like do like facial tracking manually back in the day, and it's like still hard in editing programs, or harder than it should be. But for some reason, like I don't know, it's like that shit's just like, you could deep fake now. I'm sure I can rotoscope something with a fucking filter these days, but that loses some of the artistry, right?
Oh, right. I mean,
obviously, because this is
some of the nuance,
this bad
some
boy,
of the likeness.
This movie we're talking about today is not got just some filter thrown on top of it. This is hand drawn. Well, I mean digitally drawn, but drawn frame by frame essentially. Yeah. Throughout the whole thing, and it shows. So anyway, this is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast. I'm Levi. That's Jordan. You may wonder which rotoscope movie we're talking about. And it is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah, right.
Which I've watched 3 times this last week, actually. I should put that on my fucking letterbox. My daughter discovered it, and she loves fucking Snow White.
Dude, the like old school, like 30s Snow White?
She loves it.
Hell
dude.
yeah,
She's got a Snow White t-shirt now, and she's always like, Snow White.
Dude, Snow White.
Well, when we go around the house singing, hi-ho, hi-ho. I better not sing it, or I'm going to get fucking... copyright struck by Disney or something.
I think you get like 15 seconds.
Yeah, I could say hi ho. It's off to, and then that's the cutoff. You know.
yeah, it's off to podcasting. We go.
Anyway,
I don't know how that works.
So what's the movie we're actually talking about? It's not Snow White. It is
A Waking Life.
Yep, Waking Life by Richard Linklater.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no. So this is Druggy Month, and we're talking about. I mean, first we did. Alcoholism. Then we did heroin abuse. This week we're doing about like more of a psychoactive, what is real type of trip. And we're not even covering a real drug because the movie we're actually watching is also a rotoscoped Richard Linklater movie, but it is the other one.
Yeah. It's his
Apollo 10 and a half. Which is also rotoscoped.
I forgot it is. You're totally right. It's like what he just. Oh man, I wish it was Stop Animation that he got a hold of and started doing.
It's all right. It's his thing. We're watching A Scanner Darkly is what we actually watch.
Yes, that is officially. Sarcasm ended.
You read the title. You read the title. You know what it is.
A Scanner Darkly. I know. What if we did just? I mean, I guess sometimes we hijack a podcast and just talk about whatever we want.
Yeah.
But today we're going to get through as much of this film as we can. Without completely going nuts into Special D.
I might. Yeah, Special D, which I think is I don't know what it is, but it's just like, I like future drugs. Like movies about future drugs. Like dystopian future drugs. Like, that's one of the coolest aspects of Dread when we talked about that, whereas like the slow-mo and just like these crazy future drugs that people take are fun. But Substance D, it's like, I don't even know what that is, man.
No, right? I mean, it's like
the slow death, man. Like, I don't know.
It's your classic plant-based drug that gets compounded down to some sort of digestible
it's like
pill.
An opium, a hallucinogenic, a who knows? It's like meth and LSD and heroin all together. Who knows? Because people get pretty mellow on it too. But anyway,
it's better than sex.
That's what they say. It's like, no, that's better than any meat injection, as they say in Trainspotting. So before we get too crazy, so this is probably, I don't know how many people have actually watched this movie, but for those of you who have not or need a refresher, Is it my day to do it is, isn't it?
Sure, bud. Yeah. I think this is our new, we've adopted, instead of writing synopsis, I'm gonna
just explain to you the plot,
which I think's fun,
as best as I can. Well, it helps me try and force me to have like a retention.
Right.
I'm gonna explain the plot best I can in a short time frame. So, here it is. Scanner Darkly. Here's what it's about. It's about a dude played by Keanu Reeves, Bob Arctor, who is a undercover cop and also a hardcore substance D addict that lives in this druggy house in this future dystopian era that this movie takes place 7 years from now, as it claims. Everything is like an extreme surveillance state, and everything is recorded at all times, and the undercover police wear these scramble suits that scramble them from hiding their true identity. So he's an undercover cop, and we're the only one that really knows that as the audience with his scramble suit. And then he's also this druggie trying to figure out, there's like a conspiracy of trying to figure out where the source of that comes from. But the real crutch of the movie is him losing his touch on reality, and as he becomes more and more addicted, and he doesn't even know who he is because the scramble suit, he's got a fake name, and he starts surveilling himself. He loses touch with his own identity, eventually resulting in a complete mental breakdown, or like literally psychosis of his brain, to where he gets put into a rehabilitation program, which is then revealed to be like the people behind the substance D epidemic is the New Path, right? Yeah, New Path.
Yeah, New Path, which, what did they do exactly? Were they,
Yeah, this movie's got like a lot of weird moving pieces, but it kind of doesn't matter the details as much as the overall, because the themes are pretty self-obvious, and it kind of just explains it to you all at the end, just like the kind of twists about, the girl he's dating, Donna. She's been super sketch, and then turns out that she's also an undercover cop, and she kind of like orchestrates the whole thing for him to basically lose his mind to substance D so that he can get into the program as basically an informant for them, but like without him knowing. And that's pretty much the movie, and it ends with him like totally brain melted with a third identity, because identity is a very big theme in this movie.
Yeah.
Ends up at this this fucking farm for this company, and discovers that yes, indeed, they are behind the blue flowers that create substance D, and hopefully he can crack it all open, even though it's very Shutter Island kind of vibes, in a way.
That's a great comparison. It's like he ends up it's like, yeah, it's awesome because
it's like he got lobotomized, kind of.
Sort of, right? Yeah, I mean, it's like he was basically conditioned to be like a sleeper cell.
Yeah,
he had to like go in, and it's like, it's so cool because you can see like the light behind his eyes flickering of like he knows he's supposed to be there for a reason. Like, he's a double agent in here, but he's also like kind of brain fried, and it's gonna take
which
him,
is
like,
interesting.
It's like months
that you can kind of see that, and it's like,
right,
that's a testament to the animation, but also Keanu Reeves I think this is kind of one of his better roles. It fits his like kind of monotone like vibes a little bit more, you know what I mean? But
and I love that he leaned into it more. It's like this to me is like his biggest deviation from action star, which, Keanu.
This could not be farther from an action movie.
Right.
But like the trailer might have you believe otherwise. Honestly, though,
totally. I know.
Like, a lot of movies.
I remember this movie being more, because I think they wanted to make it punchier. They wanted to make it sexier.
Oh, they made it seem like this crazy conspiracy thriller, which it is. But it's it's Richard Linklater.
It's Linklater. he just talks it. He talks at the camera. That's all he does.
It's weird because this movie does have it is like a paranoid conspiracy thriller, but it's also like a paranoid stoner comedy. It's really great,
right?
Or like not even stoner comedy, but like it's like almost a satire of drug culture, which is kind of hilarious. Like so many of the scenes, like Trainspotting, are like hilarious on the surface, but then when you realize the actual like destitute nature of the situation and the manipulation going on and like all that, then it becomes like much more sinister in the undertones. But it's like there's so many. This movie made me laugh a lot. Surprisingly, like I forgot how like actually funny this movie was.
I think I never found myself.
I guffawed
laughing
out loud.
I found myself being like perplexed and then like impressed by how like, you know, abstract every conversation was. But yet, I like followed this movie to a T.
Yeah,
it's really weird. Where like Shutter Island, I get the movie. It's pretty self-explanatory, and the ending explains itself pretty well. But I feel like it was harder to follow. Where
I agree.
This movie,
well, this movie feels a lot tighter.
Yeah,
in a way.
Actually, was like I saw this movie in 2006. I think I saw it in theaters. And
yeah, I saw it right when it came out too. Not in theaters.
I remember not getting it and not really liking it that much. Like I felt like it was one of those movies I felt like I had to like because I liked Linklater, and it's was that like kind of weird experimental kind of like it's that new freshness coming out, that new girl.
That's the thing too. It's like nobody would have blinked twice probably if they had just filmed it traditionally. Like now, like Robert Downey Jr. was kind of making a comeback. He wasn't like as known quantity as now. Right. You know, it would be like, oh, Linklater made a movie. Like, I don't know, sci-fi fans, because obviously Philip K. Dick and everything wrote the book. So it's like it would have a certain amount, but it's like, I think what caught the general attention of everyone was like the art style, and the rotoscoped animation, which it's like kind of gave it this extra layer, but also made it stand out to your everyman that wouldn't be normally in those circles, you know?
Right. I think that's why they made the trailer so.
Oh yeah, it's punchy and it's like it was eye catching, and it's like I wanted to see it because it looked cool, but also it's like I did like Linklater, and yeah, when it first came out, it was like, you know, still learning a lot about film and stuff like that, and I was like, oh yeah, you know, this looks cool. So is this your second time watching it then?
Yeah, my second time, and I barely remembered anything. I literally remembered nothing about it except the bugs, the funny, like the scratching bugs scene.
Really, I forgot all about the bugs.
No, the bug. Well, I forgot it was the opening scene.
Yeah.
I just remembered. I remembered the bugs being like that guy being weird and the bugs funny. And then when Robert Downey Jr. is a bug, I remember that. Yeah. I remember that scene. Like I don't know why those just were vividly stuck in my head. I forgot about Fleck, whatever
Fleck.
that character's when he has his like
attempted suicide or whatever.
Is it like an attempted suicide and he lives? I don't even remember.
Well, he lives. He lives because he's at the end. Right? He's also at New Path at the end.
Oh, duh! Right, his head shaved.
Yeah, because I thought he might have died too, but his like attempted suicide is
right. And
that's one of the things. It's absurd, and it's kind of funny, but it's super dark at the same time.
Oh yeah,
because like his like literally the narration is just like he decided to buy a fancy bottle of wine. He wanted to be found with Ayn Rand and the Fountainhead, which he just found on his shelf, which I guarantee you he's never read.
Never read.
But he wanted to seem intellectual, and for the people who found him, and then not even finished, but a half-finished letter to the gas company protesting the cancellation of his bill or his credit card. Genius. And then it's like obviously interdimensional entity just reads him his sins for all of eternity.
And I love it. I love that it's like he keeps reading him all of his sins, and it's like 1,000 years later.
It ends with 1,000 years later. They got to the 6th grade when he discovered masturbation. And that's how.
Yeah, that's so good. And dude, apparently, I didn't look into this. I just read on a fun little factoid.
Factoids. This dude's got factoids.
This was like straight up like word for word, and it was like undisrupted. It was just the book translated.
I've heard that this is an amazing adaptation. Like I've heard it's a really good, and I've heard a lot of people say it's the best Philip K. Dick adaptation because it captures like his themes better than like Blade Runner, which he's like Blade Runner and like Total Recall is what he's like famous for.
Yeah.
And so now I really want to read the book. I'll probably read it next, honestly, if I'm still feeling it.
Yeah, I would love. I mean, I'm like, it made me. I was reading about Philip K. Dick, and I'm like, God, this like makes me want to get into it because this guy, I didn't know anything about his like personal life. You know, I knew his name. I knew he was integral in the sci-fi like realms and society and sci-fi fold, but I didn't realize that he was like that of like a Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah,
where he
I didn't
lived
really realize
so fucking vividly close to his material. Like I knew he was the sci-fi kook that wrote some cool books, but it's like now what I've learned about him, I'm like, holy shit! Like he believes in like a pink beam, and he has I don't know, he has like
is he still
really
alive?
Weird ideology. Oh, actually, I don't even know. Let's look it up real quick.
I know he might be. I don't know. He's definitely because I'm pretty sure the book was written in like the 70s.
Oh no, he died in 1982.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, that tracks.
He dead as hell. Rest in peace.
He's been dead for a long time. It's 40 years.
Damn, dude. Yeah. But he died in California from heart failure, which explains a lot because at the end of this movie, when it's like going through all the names, that's like that's
from him at the end of the book, like it's his
right
in memoriam type of thing,
And he's in it too. He has the like it says like Philip or whatever, the pancreatic issues, and so it's like it's wild because he like after his fourth divorce, he just went off the deep end even more so, and like he lived that life where he just lived in like a fucking trap house with like people coming in and out, and he just got like
70s drug culture. I just think it's cool that he like took that vibe and then like transmuted it to like a futuristic sci-fi dystopian setting. But it's like, we've talked about before. I know you love these kind of like lo-fi sci-fi movies that are like
this is
the epitome
dripping in it, dude. Yeah. I was dripping in it when it said like 7 years from now.
That's the best. Like
that's so fucking sick, dude.
Better than like the present day. It's just like it's just perfect. Like tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this movie came out 15 years ago or whatever, but it still feels more and more 7 years from now. It feels poignant as could be.
Exactly. No, it was so smart to not. It didn't say it's not like Blade Runner where it's set in like 2020. Actually, wasn't the original Blade Runner supposed to be like 2026 or something like that?
I don't remember.
But yeah, I can't remember. But or maybe even like
because the new one's 2046 or whatever.
Yeah, 20. Yeah,
and that one takes place like 20 years after. 20 so
years later.
It's like 2023.
Yeah, right. I can't quite remember.
That.
But they give it like a solid date,
and
it kind of dates it. Where this is just 7 years from now, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it clearly like the subject matter and the conversations they have kind of date it, and like in like 50 years, this will seem super antiquated, super dated. But we have like a long time where all of this seems so familiar, yet just like we basically have all of this technology that exists in this movie exists today.
Yeah.
And so it makes it kind of timeless to me.
It does.
And I love it. And the thing that I think's the greatest is Philip K. Dick's. I wonder if he does this in more of his books and the other material. His interviews and the questioning that happens to somebody, like usually the main character, where they have to like question like their quote-unquote reality and their humanity, and or to make sure that they aren't human, like to make sure, because it's like in Blade Runner, like when they go through that, they go through all the questioning.
Identity and like self-reflection with like, not only just self-reflection, but like just like that inner turmoil of like, who am I? What's real? Is there even a difference between like imaginary and reality? Like it's all these like philosophical questions that make sense of a heavy drug user, honestly. And so it makes a lot of sense in this movie too. I think they've really captured this like paranoid ramblings that just feels so natural in this movie.
And I love it. I love it specifically in interviews where like, because he's getting interviewed by the two people and they ask like questions about about his reality and like have his two hemispheres had conversations with each other and like stuff like that, like things that are like purposely confusing, but like it just like I don't know, it's cool. It's like cool questioning, and it's like stuff that happens now even, like I don't know, like
I know. It's interesting to watch. Like a lot of that, there's a lot of stuff going on there because it's like I do feel like it's one of those movies. Like on the surface, it's like I said, it's a cool kind of paranoid conspiracy comedy thriller, and then it's like obviously it has all the revelation. Like the big twist at the end is that Donna is actually Hank, who is his superior.
Yeah.
But it's just like. There's something so tragic about, and like something so like almost like horror movie-esque about like, or cosmic horror of like the idea of like losing yourself. It's like almost like dementia or something like that, where it's like he gets to the point where he is watching Bob Arctor on the cameras, but he's like, he doesn't realize he's Bob Arctor. Like he becomes so separated from who he is that it's like Fred's not a real person. He just is, it's like this entity, and he feels it. Like the whole speech of like that's like the namesake of the movie, where he's like, what does a scanner see? Does it look at me lightly, darkly? There's like this thing that's not human that watches us. And it's like, it's funny because it's like, that's a more philosophical waxing about like, paranoia and like guilt and like your inner darkness and stuff, but like literally at the same time there are cameras all over the house that he doesn't realize, like he is watching himself. And it's just kind of interesting how it's just like this like existential crisis that's so also deeply, deeply internal to the point where he literally, his brain fractures to like a split brain syndrome or whatever it is that's like a real thing where your hemisphere is like split like that. And to the point where it's just like, who is he? And by the end, he goes by a completely different name. He's Bruce at the colony or whatever. And it's just right. He's taken on a whole new identity that whoever Bob Arctor was before Substance D, during Substance D, during his time as an undercover cop, it's just like he just lost all, like Bob Arctor's gone. And it's, and we don't even know if he had a family, for sure.
I was going to ask you, I know, right? I was actually going to ask you, do you think Bob Arctor is his name? Like, what layer are we at? Because the movie starts where he's already deep. He's deep
in it.
Past psychosis. Like, he's already, like, that Substance D is already...
He's in the grips, and it's like, I feel like since he's our protagonist and he's kind of a narrator, like, we spend a lot of the time with him inside the suit. Like, it's super intimate, and he, like, is, like, losing his train of thought and all that, and then it's like we see him... You think he kind of has it together, and then... There'll be a scene that's like pretty, like from a subjective outside point of view where he gets sucked into these like paranoia rants. And he's like talking about selling the house because potentially there might have been people planning drugs in the house. It's just like
that's the greatest.
Just this constant escalation, and then like, you realize you're like, oh, he does not have it together at all. Like he is not at all like a calm, cool like Point Break, for example, where Keanu Reeves also plays an undercover. It's like this is a whole other level of like losing yourself. I don't know. It's a very interesting dynamic. I like it.
Right. It's beautiful to see. And it really only works. Or I mean, I don't know. Maybe we could make it work now. And even then, I feel like it works perfect with the rotoscope because that suit, to have that suit like conceptualized in a film. I just feel like it would look silly any other way. I think it's so beautiful in this animation style.
Yeah, well, it really works with it's like a weird like unreality to the animation style, but also it's like you think about the duality as the theme of this movie. It's like the duality that this was filmed and then drawn over. Like essentially, it's like these two separate things,
right?
From like a visual perspective.
You mentioned like cosmic, and it does play even deeper. Where in the book, the suit is described as being a single like fraction of him, like played forever, like an infinity of the fraction of who the person is wearing the suit. And I just like it, like I'm like, oh my god, that's such a large concept. And then the suit is seen so simple, where it's just like this like face scrambling thing that we have that technology today.
Yeah.
People wear masks that blend your face and change constantly.
Somebody's surveilling us now.
You can't be surveyed now. And it's just so crazy to be like, it's like, to say Scanner Darkly called it now, we're here, 20 years later almost, and it's like, but like, then Philip K. Dick called it for 55 years ago.
Seriously.
When
it was like, and that was even before the war on drugs, quote unquote. Which is
surveillance before
huge mass surveillance and war on drugs, which is insane.
At least like CCTV surveillance, which is kind of the now is like the brain plant, but like
exactly, and that's the whole thing is fed from like 20% of the population is addictions to this substance that kills people, and that's kind of like a reason to. Like, that's where all the conspiracy comes in, It's like, that's a reason to fund the police state, is to, like, stop this war on drugs.
I know, yeah,
which is then just
it's all too
perpetuated by the pharmaceutical companies and, like...
by the government, by the people in power. And then, do you know what's hilarious? Speaking of conspiracy theories and talking about this, that's actually Alex Jones.
Dude, I did not. I had no idea. Thank God.
Freaky, dude.
That
is too freaky.
Right. When I first saw this, I had no idea who Alex Jones was, and I wish I could go back in time and not know who Alex Jones is.
Same.
But this time watching it,
I wish this was all he did acting wise.
Seriously, I like this almost made me want to live in that reality, because I was like, holy shit, is that Alex Jones? Like, but I can't tell if it looks like that much like him, because he's like, he's animated and he has hair and he's like younger.
And he's like 100 pounds lighter and doesn't.
I had to look it up, and I'm like, oh my God, it is. But I'm like, you know what? I would live in the Scanner Darkly world where Alex Jones never got off the fucking street corner with his megaphone. That's the world I want to live in. It's almost worth it.
Tell me about it.
But even that scene is kind of like surreal. It's just like this guy shouting on the corner. Like, it's like he's at the edge of a fast food restaurant with this megaphone.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah.
And it's Bob's just walking by, and then this black van pulls up, tases him, throws him in the back, and drives off. And then as soon as that happens, like, Donna pulls up, and it's like, it's one of those things. It's like, is that the police state? Is that a hallucination of his paranoia? Why not both? Like, you know what I mean? That's the thing. This movie does it all. And those things, like, it's just really just could be all the things.
Right. The blend, like, whenever, and I love it. I love how, like, nothing fully gets backed up, but, like, I believe everything that's happening. Like, especially when, like, their car gets broken, and they're talking about the screws spinning out, and they're like talking about, like, it spins in when you, like, accelerate, or, like, when you do the pedal, and then he's like, and if we're in, like, when he's talking about, like, if we're in Australia,
I know,
the other way, and, like, dude, they're like, their movements are so good. Like, they do.
I wish Woody Harrelson was in this more, because
I know
he was a lot of fun just playing this, like, totally, like, paranoid surfer dude vibe, because it's just like the conclusions, like, I feel like it sucks me into the paranoia, like drug fueled paranoia specifically, that doesn't really, like, I feel like a lot of movies can't capture that well. Like, I feel like Inherent Vice captured it pretty good, but like, just like these, like, escalations, like, I don't know, it just seems so natural with these characters, of like, it just starts off so simple, like fucking Robert Downey Jr. leaving the note on the front door. It's just like the thought,
my God.
The thought process.
Dude, yeah, and what I love is, like, there's not action in this. Nothing really happens. It's just their conversations are so vivid, and it's like I can imagine all the things happening. And it's like it's mainly them in that, like, shitty ass house just in the living room, and they're just talking, or it's them in, like, a shitty car driving around. Mm-hmm. But it's like every time they talk, it's like it's a lot, and it gives me so much information, and so much, like, it's so vivid. Wow. And I'm like, it makes me want to read the book really bad.
I want to read it too. Yeah. And it's like Robert Downey Jr.'s character, I really feel like, because this was the time of his comeback, because this came out, I think, the same year as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, or maybe it was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang came out right after this. So it's like, this will always be the start of the Downey Jr.
It
comeback.
was. Then I think Iron Man was in 09 or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, 08, 09.
A couple years
like,
later when he finally blew up, and then oh my god, dude, Robert Downey Jr. has been in some great movies.
he really has, man. He's really killed it. But in this movie, I forgot how good he is, because he's such a fucking worm, and like we all know, or at least I do. I knew people like this that are just like these like it's like pseudo intellectual stoner heads that try to make themselves so smart and so in control of their situations, but then like are constantly proven wrong, and then they just have like some other thing that's like, oh well, it's because of this, like that's why that didn't happen, but it it would have, you know what I mean? It's just he has such this deep narcissistic personality that it's like he has to be like the hero and like be correct and be in control, to the point he involves himself with like being like turning in Bob Arthur and snitching. I know, and stuff.
Right. Well, and on all of that, like it's so funny that like
he's just such a fucking slime ball, man.
He wants to be like undercut. He wants to be in that fold, and it's like then it sucks.
And they arrest him, which is just so brutal too, because it's like I want him to get his comeuppance because he's a douchebag. But at the same time, I'm like, you can't just arrest that guy just to hold him. Like,
I know, I'm like, but I don't want the police. I don't want the police to win either.
No,
but it does suck because the fact that he I love the scene, but it also like breaks my heart because like I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for all three of them because I feel like they're just fun guys that are just kind of doped out. It's kind of like I don't know. They don't feel like superhero, or they don't feel like the hero, the protagonist, if you will. They're kind of like they're just kind of there, and I like their story. But when Robert Downey Jr. like leaves his buddy to choke to death, that's so brutal.
So brutal.
He's watching the video, and he's like that animation of him like looking in, and just like he's totally not helping him at all.
Filling it out, and then he calls. He calls 911, and he's like, "Oh, how are you today? I don't know if this is the right service, but I've never had mail sent here, but let me figure out the address." It's just like zero urgency whatsoever. And he's like, oh, never mind. He figured it out. It's just, I don't know. There's so many. That's such a Linklater move, though. I wish he would do more movies like this, because I think he's a pretty versatile filmmaker, and a lot of his movies have like kind of like this, this like very just a portrait of life, snapshot of life style of dialogue that came out of the 90s, where it's like, it doesn't really drive the plot, but it's very indicative to like the characters, and it's just entertaining to watch and listen to.
And he's good at stitching like just a scene together, which, in lieu of Slackers, it's like he just he doesn't even have to have like the strongest narrative.
Oh yeah, Slackers just like a series of vignettes, but it's great.
Right. But it flows really well.
But that's the whole thing, is it all blends.
Right. And that's like, I feel like from those roots, he kind of has kept that as his narrative style.
I want him to do something kind of like this, because this isn't really that much like a lot of the other shit he's done, because, most of the shit, he dabbles in, like, the crime with, like, Bernie and stuff. But it's like he's known for, like, Dazed and Confused, and it's like his big, more popular movies like School of Rock. But it's like,
which is so funny that you say that, because I'm thinking of like the trilogy. I'm feeling like the Before trilogy and Boyhood. Those are those are the big, and then Slackers, like I said. But it's like those, and then I'm like, oh yeah, he did like some really huge movies.
I know, seriously,
that's so funny.
And it's just weird because it's like, but his like dialogue and the way he approaches, even if he's not like the main writer, which he often is, but. The way he like approaches dialogue, I think it's like definitely like a very Kevin Smith kind of vibe, where it's like this very naturalistic dialogue driven scenarios, which lead to great character driven shit. Whoops, I'm dropping stuff over here. But I don't know, I want him to do something kind of like this movie's kind of edgy, it's got kind of like a dark. It's like obviously pretty dark.
It would be cool to see him make another one of these in like 10 years, 20 years to like.
Well, have you seen Apollo 11 and a half or whatever? Or Apollo 12, 10 and a half?
Is that I thought that took place in like the 60s or something like that.
Oh yeah, it took place in the 60s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for sure. It's just his latest movie, and it is really good.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot it came out this year.
Last Flag Flying, was that any good?
That one was really good, actually. I really like that. I really like Linklater. I've seen most of his movies.
Yeah.
I've actually not seen Everybody Wants Some, though, which I did want to. But like if you look at his filmography, though,
God, his filmography is all over the
it's
fucking place.
all
Like tape
over. But that's why I'm like,
amazing.
tape and this are like the darkest things he's done. Suburbia is kind of dark.
He did Bad News Bears, the remake.
Yeah.
What is going on? And it's like from Dazed and Confused to like up to Bad News Bears.
He's a weird
wild
dude.
guy, man.
Yeah, he's a weird guy.
Yeah, he definitely does not stay on track, which is really refreshing. That's
It is
nice.
refreshing, but it's like I always
He's like
I feel like if I saw
film directors,
if I saw one of his movies by accident, I probably wouldn't realize it was him. Maybe
you wouldn't know. Yeah.
But once I do know, I'm like, oh, okay, like, because it's like I don't know. He's got his fingerprints in the dialogue. I think is where it mostly shows, and then like obviously the big stylized stuff. You know what I mean? Like all the rotoscoping stuff. But even like Apollo 10.5, I was saying it's like that movie's all rotoscoped, but it's weird because it's like I want to watch it again because like Waking Life makes sense for that style. It's a very trippy movie. This movie, Scanner Darkly, obviously makes sense for the way they do it. It's a very intentional, style to put, and obviously hugely fucking labor intensive. Like I'm pretty sure like post production took like fucking a year or something.
Basically, yeah. It's essentially like it took them like 23 days to shoot it, and then it took them like a year and a half to do the rotoscope.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
Insane. And it's like all the effort that goes in that. It's like you gotta appreciate it, especially now. The fact that it's like that could be done with a filter, probably, like we were saying.
Yeah, right.
That it's just like, but it doesn't undermine the hard work that went into it. But it's just something that nowadays really couldn't exist in that way. But which makes me wonder about Apollo 10.5, because Apollo 10.5 is rotoscoped in the exact same way, I think. And that movie is not like a trippy drug movie. It's like an autobiography of a 13-year-old kid's life in the 60s, and it's great. It makes me feel like I grew up in the 60s. But It's like I want to watch it again to like why they used rotoscoping as a choice other than just because they could. I don't know, just to punch it up a little bit. I don't know. It's weird because that movie is very much about like dreaming, though. He's very got like a philosophical mind. So it makes sense that he would, adapt Philip K. Dick or like kind of these more out there authors and stuff like that, because it's like those are the subjects he likes tackling in his movies. But yeah,
I wonder what drew him to this one specifically.
I'm sure he really liked the book. I really want to read the book, and I heard it's great. Last Flag Flying is pretty good, but I don't know, man. This movie, I didn't rate it, but I don't know when I'd give it. Honestly, though,
I don't know. See,
I was gonna give it 4 stars, but I feel like I liked it more than that. But I don't want to give it more. I might do 4 stars in a heart because I don't know.
Sure. Well, I gave it 3 stars, and it's nice when we talk about this because this is why I kind of like don't usually like to rate the movie until we've like talked about it, because it does help me talk through it. And I mean, I think it is like. The more I talk about it, it is tighter. It's a 4-star movie for sure.
Well, it's easy to get confused, especially in the back third.
Yeah, right. Well, it's like I guess it's more like the larger philosophical aspect of this story. I'm kind of like, oh man, it is up for interpretation, but I feel like there was a solid place they wanted to go, and maybe that got a little convoluted. But
yeah,
as for the narrative of what we're watching and all the characters are going through, what happens at the end, it's nice that it kind of does like just kind of gets wrapped up neatly.
Yeah,
essentially,
that's definitely how I felt about it the first time watching it, where I was like, this kind of I get like the twist and everything, but like what is just like about drugs. It was about the conspiracy stuff. Like I don't know. Like it's hard to say. This time around watching it, I feel like I didn't take as much stock in like the nuts and bolts, capital P plot, so much as like I was paying more attention to like the vibe and the themes and just like the dialogue and everything more so. This is only my second time too, I think, but.
Oh, right. That's cool, yeah. Well, I think about it too because it's like I want to. It's like it is to say, oh, it's like it's duality, or it's like the like what the meaning of like humankind and who we are and what makes you like conscious and stuff, and it's like, but it's also those things are like I can understand that. That's easy to say. Those are the themes, but I'm kind of like I want to get even deeper. I want to like.
You probably could. It does feel like there's more like that I could assign concretely because it is very open about it,
But I think I rated it lower because like I'm not intrigued to watch it again. If that makes sense. It's weird. It's like sometimes there's a movie I want to like dig deeper, and I think for me it's directed and acted like flawlessly. But I kind of like I feel like the score is kind of lacking.
And I was gonna say I like the score.
And the Foley. I don't know, man. I guess
Foley. The Foley did that. The audio. I couldn't tell if that was intentional or if it was.
I think it just kind of limited because how they did it is they shot it and they shot with sound and they sent like the finished product, like the actual complete edited movie to the studio that did the rotoscoping or did the animation. And so it's like but they like didn't go through and clean up the like or really hammer.
Yeah, because they knew it was gonna they shot it. Some of it was shot at the house, I know from what I've seen, but then like a lot of it was like that's not what the background's gonna be. That's not gonna be what they're wearing necessarily.
No, right, or like shooting on the freeway and stuff. They didn't shoot on a freeway, and so it's just like I don't know. It just I kind of felt like it was just it wasn't that dynamic.
I get that
sound to me.
It was
and
like
it kind of felt like, and it kind of made the pacing weird. I don't know though. It's a movie that I think is super tight, but the fact that I'm not begging to watch it again kind of makes me.
See, it's interesting you mentioned the score because I always bring up the score about like there's nothing that kills my boner faster for a movie than a super generic score. But this movie was like a very minimalistic score for sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was not doing much. It was kind of just being like, like, oh, this is kind of like an indie, like, like, oh, this is like me, like pondering life and who am like all his monologues would be like, I used to be a man. This would be a family home, and it's got like those scenes. But some of the other scenes, like the music really made me uncomfortable. The way it was, because it's like I don't know what instruments they use, because it's mostly like electronic sounding.
Right, but it's like electronic jazz or something.
Yeah, it's really weird, and like the way like they do like this pitch warp thing that like some keyboards have, then you can just go like
Yeah.
They do like a weird pitch warp during some of the scenes, especially all Freck's scenes where he's acting super manic and crazy.
Right.
Those that made me like
fun.
that really
That's
like
fun.
made me uncomfortable. Some of the some of the score for that one, but I could see your point though. It just kind of.
But the directing is so good. Like that scene with the bugs and everything, and he's like freaking out, and then dude, like you said, comedic timing in this is flawless. When he goes to the dog, and then it's just like one little bug like flicks out, and then he's washing the dog in the shower.
Just him. It just cuts to him washing the dog.
It's just like scrubbing that dog. It's funny, and that worked. I think it's because maybe what I watched was like subdued, but it just.
I get what you're saying.
It wasn't punchy where I wanted it to be.
It does feel like. That's why it doesn't like really knock it out of the park for me, because I feel like personally I enjoyed it. That's why I was saying I would probably give it a 4-star, maybe a heart also, because it's like I feel like I enjoyed it more than a 4-star, but I feel like it's a 4-star movie. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I got a lot. I really really liked it, but I feel like so much of it comes down to like taste and like what I wanted out of this type of film, as opposed to like technically well done, like objectively a good film. Like I do feel like it's a little messy here and there, which I feel like kind of fits the vibe, so I don't mind it too much. But it is a little convoluted. I love that it's
still like an indie, like it's an indie like passion project. It's I can feel that. I dig it, dude. I mean, I got nothing against this movie.
No,
I just think where like Amelisa that is like I mean it's a radio play essentially, and so it's just like
Anomalisa,
Anomalisa, that is where I'm like, God, that animation is like that's top tier.
Yeah,
Foley, like that is top,
Foley,
top tier.
yeah,
you can close your eyes and you can fill each scene. Like
that's a good point.
You can see you know where they are in each scene, and that's
a great movie. That's a great movie too.
Right.
But I think I agree with you though. Like I'm not rushing out. See, I'm like I really like this movie, and I really like a lot of things it does. I'm not rushing to rewatch the movie, but I am rushing to read the book. So I want to read the book quite a lot. So I
want to be in Philip K. Dick's life for a minute.
Yeah, I want to
go down his short stories or something.
Yeah, for sure. So I think after I finish this book, and I think that's kind of says what this movie kind of clicked for me in a way, where it's like the visuals and the story and the acting were all very good, but like the writing I found very like interesting. Like it wasn't very filmy. It felt more like a book, and that's what kind of like intrigued me and left me wanting more than the rest of the stuff. Like I'm okay as a film having just that, and probably won't watch it again for some time.
I will watch this again in my life.
Yeah, maybe eventually, but it's like, but it does make me, I do want to delve deeper into what I think this movie does the strongest, which is like is a very well adapted, but from the get-go, like the nugget of the idea of this movie and the theme and like just the original idea of it is so strong. That's what makes me want to delve deeper. So if there was no written material that this was based on, then I would probably be like, ooh, I want to watch this movie again and get like the full out of it. But the fact that it's based on a book from an acclaimed sci-fi writer that I've not read, that I've heard is actually quite accurate. The film is a quite accurate adaptation. Makes me want to like get more into like that subject matter. I think that's what like kept its hook on me anyway. So
yeah. No, I've been thinking about it. So
you mentioned indie, and it's obviously an indie movie. All his movies are fairly indie.
Right.
He's always kind of skates the line sometimes, occasionally with some of his bigger movies. But what do you know? You want to give me a money minute on this?
Yeah, I can give you a money minute right now. It was 8.7 mil to produce. And it grossed 7.6 million, which is, it's moderate. I don't think this movie had. I remember it being talked about, but I was also like in film school, so
yeah, that's why.
So it's like we were in a small circle.
That's the thing about Linklater. He rarely is. He's massive, though. You know what I mean? And so
it's true. Yeah. Well, he is, but nobody knows it's Linklater.
Yeah, exactly.
That of fucking Bernie was. I remember when Bernie came out. That got a lot of Boyhood got a lot of buzz.
That's true, and Boyhood was good, but a lot of it was because School Rock.
School Rock, yeah. It's like School Rock. School Rock was huge. That movie was like
how much. You probably don't know this, but I wonder how much of that budget was spent on post, because it's like since they were filming it with the intention, and I think I read that like several of the actors took like SAG wages or whatever, like pretty low.
Right.
And it's like, obviously, since they weren't planning on the film version of this really mattering, it's like they probably spent next to nothing on wardrobe. They spent nothing. They probably shot it on a shitty digital.
No, it was. Yeah. It's shot. Yeah, it's like.
So it makes me wonder how many millions went into the post production, especially if it was like fucking 18 months or something, to just pay the guys to sit around and do that.
Yeah, but the interesting factoid about that budget, though it is it doesn't really blow its its cost out of the water, it's still the highest grossing rotoscoped movie ever made. So there you go.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's kind of a fun little
rotoscoping. It's like especially full rotoscoping, because obviously they used quite a bit for like older Disney movies, and then they used it for like those Lord of the Rings animations, you know what I mean, to get like natural movements and stuff.
It's got an uncanny valley to me.
It definitely does, because that's why people think it's like a filter, but it's not. It's fully animated, but it's
fully animated.
It's traced over, and it's like not a filter, but it's like they spent so much effort. Like I almost wish they would have like went a little more cartoony with it. Like,
me too.
Like I really like the vibe, but just to make it stand out as this is an animated film because it's like it is, but you don't really think of it as one because it seems the animation feels so lifelike because of the rotoscoping.
And getting the likeness, that is the instead of where animation gets the caricature and the likeness of somebody, this is like straight up just like it looks like them and it acts like them, but like it just like the flow is weird, but I like it too. It's a weird attraction. Like I don't automatically love it. It does creep me out a little bit, but then I'm also intrigued by its effort,
specific type of animation that I also there's a okay, here it is.
Do we have any Reddits?
Yeah, but real quick, just because we're talking about rotoscoping, so I guess Loving Vincent, which Thomas wouldn't shut up about, I need to see, but so I started watching this movie because I was looking for animated movies, like adult animated movies, not like porn. Sickos, but like animated movies that are for me.
That. And then, I was like, oh, I know what you mean.
The animated movies that are for me that I can watch with my daughter this last year, and I found one that I was like, oh, I'll give this a try, and it's called The Spine of Night. And it is a rotoscoped movie, and I watched like a half an hour of it, and I want to finish it. It was kind of cool, but that whole movie's rotoscoped, but it's NC-17. And I was watching it with my daughter, and I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't watch this. And so I was like going to finish it later. But like, it's interesting that it's like people are still doing that. And I wonder what the story is behind that. Because that movie's just like ultra violent.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm watching it. I'm watching like a little IMDb plays like that silent trailer for it. It's a Shudder. It's a Shudder.
Yeah,
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, so
I did hear about this. I didn't realize it was rotoscoped. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Which I mean makes sense because it's like a dark fantasy. So it's interesting. Yeah. That's the thing about this movie is it's like such a realistic environment that uses some like the sci-fi elements, but it's like when you think about rotoscoping, especially in the modern day, like that movie's what you think of because they probably filmed it on a stage or in their garage, and then it's like a dark fantasy.
Right.
So they added, they drew on like they did with like Lord of the Rings, and they like there's a guy going holding a broomstick, but then you draw on he's an orc with an axe. You know what I mean? And it's like it's interesting that Linklater more is just like I don't want to like this does not have to be rotoscoped, but it's such a choice.
Right. But and there's something I like about that. It's
the effort. We really appreciate the effort because the same reason. I mean, stop motion looks beautiful. And it is beautiful, but it's an extra nugget of like, oh man, that people just had to like work so hard to make this happen, and like their fucking hands are on that shit. You know what I mean? It's just got this extra layer.
That's why stop animation will always be superior because it's physically moving, it's physically alive. You're like bringing it to life.
Somebody molded that shit, and they're literally
it's built where it's like drawing the effort exists, and I respect it wholeheartedly, and I do not like.
I kind of want to try to rotoscope, like really lazily rotoscope something.
I know, do a rotoscope.
Like I'm not gonna go Scanner Darkly where there's like 20 layers of someone's skin tone.
Yeah.
Just very like.
Well, I think it's funny because they did it. They were right on the cusp of like now people use like Photoshop, and you can just like create. You have like infinite layers or whatever. You have like Procreate. You have like simple apps, and even then, even just like 5 years later from 2006, it's like you have these like basically drawing tablets, and that becomes like the norm. It's just wild how close they were to that. Like, and it's always funny because that's how a lot of animation works, where it's like it kind of looks not necessarily outdated, but you just kind of you can see like the rough edges of things where it's like now we just kind of we kind of take it for granted almost, or it could exist like so simply, like we could do it like you're saying, like a filter. It's wild how that happens, like you get that down. But I also want to think it's crazy how like they get a lot of things right in this, but I'm like it's so funny how deliberate we give up our identity on Snapchat. Like it is, I mean, it's constantly mapping my face whenever I use it. It's like I'm constantly giving my data away. And
for
back
everything.
then in this movie Scanner Darkly, there's like a woman at the computer that's like going through and like finding people on TVs, and it's like, it's all this like, it's this crazy wild technology that we're like, how can this exist? It's wild. But nowadays it's like we just give it to them.
It's so normalized now.
Yeah,
I literally like I used to care about that kind of stuff, but it's just like you can't live in modern society.
You can't.
It's like
no.
They've done. We live in it. Like literally, there's some NSA guy. Like he does not listen to us live, but there's definitely a recording on multiple reasons of either it be Discord or my phone or whatever.
I mean, we said Alex Jones in this podcast. This podcast is somewhere. It's been flagged somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
You say COVID and like it's gonna be like
seriously.
Yeah, but it is wild how that works, and it's like
it really is, especially considering how I don't know, it just keeps getting closer and closer to that. So anyway, we got a couple Reddits.
Do we have some Reddits? Yeah.
Deidre58 says, I always loved Linklater from the Waking movie with rotoscoping and Dix from the Next and Total Recall. I feel he was very underrated. I forgot about Next.
I don't know. I didn't see that. I need to go see his adaptations because I was talking to somebody at work today about Philip K. Dick, and I'm like, oh, he did like Blade Runner, but he did, The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, and then Total Recall. And I'm like, those are. And I was like, and then A Scanner Darkly. Then I was kind of like, I don't know what else he's done. And like the person hasn't heard of any of those three. They're like, I don't know. And I'm like, I don't know. Sci-fi stuff.
Next was a fun premise, but it was not a very good movie. But it had Nicolas Cage in it, where he could like see like 5 minutes into the future or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And then, so anyways, but yeah, I'm gonna look that up too because I
remember.
Thanks for commenting. I remember thinking that concept was cool, and I'm like, oh, he wrote that. Anyway, so El Funkio Junkio says favorite part of this has to be when they're sitting at the fire and they fire the makeshift silencer. There's so many good moments like that though, of just them being
what was
fucking tweakers.
Part. I know, yeah. Like, fun. It's fun
like,
because I'm like, this is also so watching these drug movies, these like alcohol movies. I'm like, I've had friends like we have done this before, so it's like I feel every single movie. I'm like, oh man, I love the camaraderie. I love all the friendship. It makes me think of when I was in my 20s, and just like honestly, like blowing shit up in the backyard and doing dumb stuff, and it's like I know.
I'm surprised we didn't try to make a makeshift silencer, honestly.
Oh God!
We've done other things though in the backyard.
We've done some stuff that I'm not gonna say on the pod. I'm not giving them an excuse.
Yeah,
don't come at me,
Jim. That's listening. It's funny we're talking about being surveillance. This is literally a podcast. Like we want you to listen. So if you're an NSA guy and you're listening to this conversation, check us
like
out.
And subscribe because if you're just listening to us through your government agency, that's not giving us a view.
Yeah,
bud.
give us a listen.
Yeah, give us the view, you coward.
You coward. Do it on the open, fucker. But
yeah, that's something I enjoyed.
What was your favorite part? Did you say?
Oh man, see, it's like a lot of the big parts are really good, and I love when he can edit himself out of it, but then they're like, oh, don't edit yourself out too much because then
we'll know that it's you. That's
default
all,
we'll know
it's
it's
all kind of a mind fucker.
And I love that, but I think my favorite part is every time he's getting interviewed. I think that's something like, so in like Blade Runner, the interviews are some of my favorite parts. Like that's some of the most like integral like mental, like that's the mental gymnastics. That's like that right there, like can like, when they're waxing and waning about, being alive and like all this stuff, and then they take the drug and then they talk about like how components work and stuff. That's all fun, but like when they're just like actually having an interview and they're like look at this card, tell us what you see in the negative space between the black lines, and it's like he gets the question like wrong because he's like, it's a Coca-Cola bottle, and she's like, it's a soda bottle. Like it just, these things where like it makes you frustrated because you're like, oh, I was thinking Coca-Cola bottle, and it's like wrong, and that right there is like, they're like, oh, I get to deem that you're not human, you're not on the level, and it's kind of frustrating, that power dynamic. I love it, dude. Those are my favorite
scene with the doctors. There's that one shot, and there's no dialogue or anything, when he's got the two statues of the elephants.
Love that,
and he just looks so confused, like he's just
so
trying
confused.
He's trying to be like, what?
Beautiful.
And it's just such a, hey, it's amazing that that's a subtle performance by Keanu Reeves, but also that they captured it in animation because it's just like it's like literally like 2 seconds or however long, and he's just like trying to really like you can tell he's really trying to figure it out. Yeah, and that's just a moment that you just like, oh shit, because you keep having the rug kind of pulled out from you in this movie where you're like, this is more serious than I thought it was. Because it's like you're following him as the protagonist, and he's like, "No, it's cool. We're cool." You know, it's like I'm questioning some things, but who doesn't question some things? But then, like, when you see him not as the protagonist, it's like an external. It's like, oh, like he thinks he has his shit together, but he does not. And it's scenes like that. You know what I mean? Where he's just like, they look at during the interviews, and it's like he's trying to because there's like, it feels very sterile, and he's like.
Yeah,
trying. You can tell he's like he's losing his train of thought and like.
Is there a point in the interview now? I feel like I was like going mad sometimes. He's like talking to them, and then it's two completely different people, and it cuts to him, and he's talking, and then it cuts back, and it's like the man and woman. And I swear to God, there's a part where it's like two men that he's talking to at the same scene.
Oh, dude, I don't know. Maybe
I need to go back. I need to go back and watch it because when I was watching it, I was like. Did that just happen, or am I on like?
Did you take some substance D?
Substance D, yeah.
Yeah.
What was your favorite little part there, bud?
Well, I don't know, because it's like I like all that.
The bike scene is really fucking funny too.
I was probably gonna say because that's so funny when they just good. Like, no, this is it. I only count 9 gears. He's like, they told me it was an 18-gear bike. And there's like those fuckers like, what are we gonna do with the other gears? And they're like planning to go get it. And he's like, whoa, wait, everyone shut up. I only count 8 gears now. What? They're like,
when he says like, oh, they must have taken it apart, and when they put it together, they dropped some gears, and then they're waiting for me. It's like a scam for him to come back and buy the additional.
No, that was their plan all along, is for me to come back, and then they were gonna sell me the extra gears.
Yeah, dude, that is like. It's just so perfect. Like it's perfect, like stoner logic. Like it just high.
It's great.
Like the
it's
high
constantly.
Pockets, like
it's like this paranoid escalation, but it's like not like.
But everyone's on board too. That's what I love.
I know, and everyone. And it's just Donna's just like, I don't know, maybe that's stolen from this chick. Yeah. And his logic is like, first of all, this is a boy's bike.
It's a boy's bike. Yeah.
That's pretty good. And then also, I really love Freck's suicide whole bit. The entity with all the millions of eyeballs. I thought that was really I feel like that could just be like a short film, just that whole scene because it's dark, it's tragic, but it's also funny. It's sort of cosmic.
Linklater's really good at just doing another part, just doing another little bit, and making it complete full narrative, and then just that's it. That's the scene, and it works for the movie.
Yeah.
He's so good.
See, I want to see Linklater go full Lynch. You know what I mean? Like I want to see his next movie because as much as I loved his more recent movies, they were very more like sentimental and kind of grounded.
Like Bernie, like kind of all over the place. But like Bernie was like one of the later ones I've seen, and Boyhood's amazing. But that's such a high concept. He is like he's one step ahead of us. Like he's got.
I like that he's not afraid to experiment. You know what I mean? And but also, just on the fringes of mainstream, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is fine by me. So, but yeah, that's probably my favorite bit. But.
What
else we got? So no one called in.
No. Not today.
We don't have.
Oh.
I don't have next week's movie yet because I was I took some Substance D over the weekend. Substance C more like was fucking Christmas shit. But I forgot to do it on Sunday and Monday. I was like, I feel like I'm forgetting to do something, and I was like literally turned my computer off and I booted up Hunt on my PlayStation. And then I was like, oh, and I like hurried and went back on my computer and put the poll up. So it'll be done tomorrow. So if you listen to this and it happens to come out before the poll finishes, go and vote on what movie we're watching next week. Obviously, it's Christmas this weekend, so I picked some we're continuing with the drug theme, but we're doing like stoner comedies more so. Something a little bit lighter. Hopefully, you don't have to philosophize and do all that crazy shit that you've had to do with these movies as much. They're heavier watches or more involved watches, just on chill, something kind of fun, wrap it all off with. So,
hell yeah, man!
Yeah, buddy.
Excited to see what's up.
Yeah, so we'll see. Check it out. Thanks for listening.
You can come check the poll out on Reddit. You can go to Instagram, and I will post the movie that we're watching if you don't make it to the poll. And then when the poll wraps, I'll post the film up there. And then, you can check it on Instagram. It'll be on Facebooks more often.
Face Narfs, that new up and coming social media website.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a try and just see how it's working. People seem to like it, so
yeah, I saw that. Try this new Facebook. I thumbs up your profile pic, dude.
Thanks, man.
I liked it, and I gave you a poke. Just kidding. What is this? 2007. Nice. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Nice, buddy.
Making Facebook poke jokes.
I'll be on. I'll be up there, and you can come to Patreon and just check our stuff out, man. Your support helps us a ton. Everybody who's already a patron, you rule. I heart you, and so it's fun, yeah, man. And then next week, next pod. So in a week from today, we will be doing it together live.
Are we? I hope so.
Most likely, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm not doing it.
I know, honestly. Unless you have other plans, but yeah, let's do it.
No, I mean,
and it's funny because it's a stoner movie, but we'll probably not be. We won't watch it together, probably, and we probably won't be stoned. So
probably not.
Probably.
I don't know. I have to drive to the place. So.
I know. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Don't do Special D and drive.
Don't do. They literally call it the slow death.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess that's it. See you on the flippity flop.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Bye.
Bye.